Hello and a very good morning, everyone. Welcome back again to the fifth session on the series of webinar on ABC of cybersecurity, powered by CXO Junction in association with iValue InfoSolutions. We are back again after a gap of 1 month due to the request from many members to postpone it, considering the fact that it was a year-end closure, wherein many of you, on the other hand, was eagerly waiting to attend this session. We are extremely thankful and grateful to know your support and love that you have for us and this ABC of cybersecurity series, wherein we are covering array of topic starting from A till Z, wherein considering this the fact that this is the fifth session, we are covering the letter E on the topic of enterprise security governance, which will be covered by Mr. Pranav Bhayani, who is the head pre-sales with having overall 22 years plus experience in cybersecurity and IT infra domain at iValue InfoSolutions Pvt Limited. After then, we will be having an amazing fireside chat between Mr. Calvin Samuel, who is the business head data center infrastructure at iValue, and our all favorite Mr. Gaurav Batra, who is the founder and CEO of CyberFrat and CXO Junction. And it's been a long time. And just to trigger your adrenaline rush, by not forgetting a bumper and first in industry giveaways, that is one lucky attendee who will be attending a minimum of 15 sessions will get a chance to win a sleek and stylish Royal Enfield motorcycle at the end of the series via Wheel of Fortune. And one lucky winner in each session will be winning OnePlus smartphone on the basis of the LinkedIn comments on the experience on the current session. So today, one lucky winner will be winning OnePlus smartphone on the basis of the comments of the previous session. So make sure that you attend the session till the end and do share your experiences with us on LinkedIn. And three lucky winner in each session will be winning CyberFrat Gold membership, which is worth of rupees 3 lakhs on the basis of Kahoot quiz. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and don't forget to stick till the end of the session. By the way, to introduce myself, my name is Iqbal Qureshi. I'm a manager operations from CXO Junction, which is a community of enterprise leader to come and discuss the evolving scene of cybersecurity and IT. In order to facilitate these discussion, we have partnered with multiple solution partner. Likewise, today we have partnered with iValue InfoSolutions Pvt Limited, introducing our associate partner iValue. So iValue InfoSolutions is a premium technology service and solution aggregator. They adopts a consulting approach for enterprise digital transformation around application lifecycle management to address emerging business needs in a hybrid multi-cloud covering CAPEX and OPEX needs. iValue is proud to have served over 6,000 plus customers across industry verticals through 900 plus partners and direct alliances with 65 plus best of breed technology OEMs. So I would now like to hand over the stage to Mr. Pranav Bhayani to throw the light on the topic and take this session forward. Over to you, Mr. Pranav.
Thank you, Iqbal, and good morning, all the participants. Just a moment, share my screen. There goes the presentation. Well, are you able to see my screen, the presentation? Okay, fantastic. Good morning, all. And yeah, we were there for a period of time, a little bit away from the screen. March ending, we all know, and this has been common for everybody actually. And now we are back with all the vigor, the same kind of energy to take this ABC journey. And again, let me tell you, this ABC journey is like understanding the A to Z of the cybersecurity. And we are taking those baby steps in trying to decipher each and every element and what are the small baby steps with each organizations could take, and rather than making it too complex as a jargonetic, all that we'll try to make it as simple as possible. In this we got today an interesting session, the enterprise security governance, starting with the letter E. We pick up those this particular topic. So yeah, let's start the session and try to understand this particular complex looking term. I'll try my best to make it as simple as possible so that it is interesting for everybody to implement it in their rightful organizations. So let's start the PPT. So why do I call this a PPT? Yeah, there's a particular reason, but then I'll come back to this point a little. This was a kind of a placeholder for me to start the PPT. And let's see how it rolls up by the end of this presentation. We'll keep this in mind. So my agenda is pretty much straightforward. Just try to introduce what is the ESG, what are the components, benefits, challenges, the implementation strategy, and conclusions towards it. So by the end of the presentation, our takeaway should be understanding this particular concept in as simple language as possible. So let's start this. What is this ESG all about? Now, this particular triangle, I'm sure most of us would relate it very easy, and nothing best than to start the information security journey without this triad called the CIA triad. And essentially, all our informations, our assets, our digital, data, and everything, the protection strategy revolves around the CIA triad. So it's been there since a while. While I've been reading certain articles that in the new age, this particular the triad might require some kind of tweakings, especially getting in the safety aspects of it. So some of the articles I did read, the safety is actually put. And safety, why safety is because we're getting into the IoT space, and we're getting into a lot of devices actually getting connected rather than only the data part of it. And so that's some other day we'll have this discussion. So underlying is this CIA triad, and ESG is basically a framework to protect all our information assets. And what are information assets? It could be data, it could be data stores in your database servers, it could be in your storage, it could be in your email data, it could be some of the digital contracts what an organization would have made, any form of all that. By the way, some of you, I'm sure, would have gone through our previous session, which was data center security. And my initial 2-3 slides was about deciphering what do we call the data. So the data is an essential part of it. So over here, we call that information asset wherever they're called. So whatever the framework we are putting is to secure, to protect this. And it takes the underpinning from the CIA principle itself. What kind of availability mechanism in an organization exists, what kind of an integrity mechanism, and what kind of security mechanisms kind of things, what we are putting in inside our organization. Just a minute. Okay. Okay, yeah. So this is over here, and it takes the underpinning from the CIA principle. The purpose of this ESG, this particular framework, is how an organization would mitigate the risk, their existing risk, or even the futuristic risks as well. And these risks could be different for each organization. How do you protect the reputation of organization? That's very important. And finally, how do you comply with the regulations? Now, each and every organization might have to go through various regulations. It could be security regulation frameworks like HIPAA or COBIT or something like that, or it could be local government kind of regulations, or it could be certain regulations put by your contractors or the companies whom you're dealing with. So the purpose is to mitigate those risks and adhere to some kind of regulations. It's often known as the ISG, information security governance. And there was a reason we picked up the enterprise word of it, since we see a lot of enterprises actually coming up with this framework called the ISG framework. So the ESG and the ISG are much more interlinked to each other. And some organizations, since they are entrepreneurial in nature, these are enterprises which today a lot of the digital native kind of an organizations are coming to let's say the existence, and this is more and more applicable to them as well. So this is a fundamental of the ESG what we have. Let's also understand what on the security side and what on the cyber side, what should we expect in the next 2 to 3 years, if not 5, but 3 years. And some of the predictions made by some of the top analysts is AI. We already seen a lot of AI in the last few months, and the AI wars between 2 or 3 of the giants in this AI is a ChatGPT and things. And already the malicious nature of the AI has already started crippling, and people, there are tools which could take use of this AI functionality to create and craft some kind of malware. So malicious AI would be on the rise going further. Cyber terrorism, that's not going to stop, as and when we go in the next 5 to 7 years, we would see this is a weapon, maybe not the real war, but the cyber warfare would happen, and this is going to only increase the chances. Critical infrastructure, that's an area where, let's say earlier we used to have, at least in the Indian parlance, the critical infrastructure was that the power sector or the railways and things like that. Now, in the last few months, we've seen that the government has announced that certain of the banks are also known as the critical infrastructure. So I would not just look at the infrastructure as infrastructure, but also the other agencies are also part of the national infrastructure to run an organization, economy, and things. So we would see more kind of an attacks also happening on these kind of critical infrastructure. Cyber insurances are also on the rise, and like we do health insurance and things like that, we need to have some kind of insurances just in case if some, let's say an attack happens and there is a data, there's a ransom or some kind of situation. So a lot of companies are actually buying in insurances, and I've seen some companies in India having a full presence to serve their customers in getting these cyber insurances and the nuances and the legal paperwork and things like that. So that's going to only rise in the near future. This is an area, third-party cyber health. So since a long time, between two organizations, if they want to do a dealing with, want to start doing business with, they do some kind of due diligence. That's a typical term used, due diligence. Check the account books, check the people, what kind of skills they have, check what kind of procedures they have, things like that, before dealing or acquiring and things like that. But now it is important for organizations to see the cyber health now. How healthy is their organization whom you're wanting to deal from a cyber perspective? Do they have enough security controls while you are sending your data to them? Maybe some kind of a procurement, what you're doing. So what is their cyber health? And more third-party cyber risk assessments you would see in the nearer future. A lot of companies already established this as a procedure, but in India, typically, this is still a little bit of a catch-up to happen, since our suppliers and our contractors are not all digital native. And this is an area for a growth in India as well. Some of the countries are already started working on this particular area called how to regulate this ransomware payments. I'm not going to talk about ransomware is on the rise. I deliberately skipped that because every year we talk about ransomware will be on rise. Now every prediction says that. Problem is on the verge what you're sitting is over here. How do you control the payments? So some threat vectors asking for, let's say, 10,000 crypto coins for some organization. How do you regulate it? After giving the money, is what happens is the money going to the right hands? Are you assuring of the data? If a lot of money goes out and goes to, let's say, fund a terrorist organization, and this would be kind of an even bigger mayhem. So some of the European countries, I read some paper, they already started framing some regulations to regulate in a way this, and it would happen in India as well. So if not from the crypto part, at least from the ransomware payment side of it, we would see this coming up. Other area we would see on the rise is multi-factor authentication. No more plain Jane kind of an authentication would work, and you need multiple different techniques to get authenticated to a system. It could be a QR code or maybe an SMS or things like that, an email-based OTP, things like that, token, iris, whichever way, but a multi-factor authentication, because this is one of the way to actually protect your identity and get a secured access to it. So more and more companies are trying to get this particular framework in picture. So these are some of the predictions over here. And there is one more area I deliberately put in the red because this is a cause of concern, the cyber warriors. This is an area where a lot of catch-up has to be done globally as well as on an India level. Not many people are there actually understanding this cybersecurity, cyber hygiene, the cyber world itself. And there is a kind of a deficit what we have in terms of, let's say, the skills or the understanding. And this is currently at quite a low level. The kind of the growth what we are seeing in the overall economic side, this is at a low level. So there is an amount of catch up to happen. So these are the predictions, and I would try to establish a platform that why more and more the ESG kind of platform would be relevant in today's area. I just picked up a Gartner article released some time back, and what they say is the lack of the talent, my last point over there, the lack of the talent itself is going to contribute a significant amount of cyber incidents. Not many people are tech savvy, or some people are not really aware of how to deal with a particular email or an SMS and so on and so forth at the grassroots level, and even at the corporate level or the organization level, how to handle certain let's say documents and things like that. So lack of that talent and the cyber hygiene or the sensitivity could be an issue. We have seen, let's say, more than 69% of the employees say that they did try to bypass their security frameworks and things like that. A lot of employees say they are willing to bypass, provided they could reach their assigned task or the business goals in time. Let's say their manager has assigned certain activity to an accounts team member or a marketing team member, and there is a security control. So there could be an issue or a perceived issue by that employee that since because of the security control, my work is getting delayed, I need to get authenticated. So they just think that if I could bypass it and get my things done faster, he would be happy. So that's kind of a perceived notion. And that's actually not just for cybersecurity. It's actually for every security mechanism. And there is always a perceived thing that if this wasn't have been there, it would have been faster. So we need to break that notion as well, that is for the larger good of it. And by that friction or by that disgruntled, what you say, some of the employees could become part of the insider risk framework itself. And they're not really happy, and they'll go and hell-bent whatever they could do to circumvent your protection mechanisms and things like that. So this is an area which really requires a lot of work to happen. Let's look at while we are making the framework, look at the components of the ESG. The top component is the risk management. An organization, when they start working, they need to analyze how is their business. If the organization's complete business is online, as today many organizations are doing completely online presence, even they would not even have a physical office, and they would completely operate out of home or coffee shops, and their whole business is online. And there's where the code is where the heart is on the cloud. So the risk management for that kind of organization would be different vis-a-vis an on-prem kind of and completely closed environment for an organization be different. So it's about understanding what all kind of threats which are there, potential threats which are there in their, let's say, area, and what could be more applicable in the nearer future if they could prepare some kind of blueprint and then start working on those implementation practices, some kind of controls, procedures. So that's on the risk management. Just see all the kind of potential threats which are applicable to that particular organization, which is more of an organization specific rather than an industry specific. Industry is there, but the subset is actually the organization. Second part is the compliance. As we said, each organization might have to deal with different, let's say, lobbies or different organizations, and they would demand certain compliances like an HIPAA or a GDPR while you are working with them. And so need to comply to that particular requirement by your, let's say, your customer or your, say, your service provider or your partner, contractor, and both of them have to mutually agree on those compliances. This is only not just a tick mark activity that yes, we are compliant to this. It's for your own good itself as an organization that if you've gone through the due diligence of achieving that compliance, then you could definitely ensure that there's a lot of hygiene which was put into picture, looking at your businesses, a lot of procedures, controls, everything which is put. And it just gives you a better posture in terms of running your organization in a most secured manner, as secured as possible. The third area is the operations part of it. It's about the continuous monitoring. So once you deploy a tool or a procedure, let's say there is a simple HR as a procedure. The HR would release certain notifications that these are some of the hygiene factors. Now, every year or every maybe 6 months, they need to revisit that operation. Similarly, on the IT side, let's say a firewall policy has been put, but maybe every month or every 6 months, depending upon, you need to revisit. So the key over here is revisiting that, monitoring, continuous monitoring, and revisiting that same procedure or the control, and make it as a continuous activity. And if there is a gap observed over there, you will immediately address that, put in the necessary changes by way of change request, and then again follow that. So this part is a kind of as a continuous activity to let's say find it out if something is missing or something is, let's say, underrated out of it. It's possible. And the fourth is the governance part of it. And this is you could say, I mean, I would say, for lack of words, you can say eliminate the technology part of it out of this. So focus on the procedural aspects of it. This is about where the organization would create the SOPs, standard operating procedures. What if this is to be done? This is your guideline. What if this goes wrong? Then this is the way you should approach. So there would be kind of an SOPs for every specific task or every specific incident. And this would be handy kept with all the stakeholders available and also all the operational teams. So these are the SOPs, the governance, which is going to help in case something happens, in case, then do this. So even the pilot would have an SOP, and even the firewall administrator should have an SOP. Without that, it's like an completely like a whimsical manner, and you would not have a track or a trail of it. So essentially, these 4 components would make your framework for the ESG. Yeah, all said and done. So what do I get out of it? So it's quite natural. You get a better risk management. Yeah. So you get better compliances. And naturally, by implementing this, you get better security operations. And you would put a security operations, I need not necessarily mean a SOC, but it would go beyond a SOC as well in terms of, let's say there is in the organization, there would be different kind of data formats and things, but everything would be improved. But that's not the goal, actually. You see, this would result into a better overall security posture. And this is giving, this is actually going to help the organization go in a particular direction, that if any threat is there, you mitigated the threat by continuous monitoring. If a future threat you anticipate is going to come up to your organization, you already worked on it. So better security posture. And by reevaluating, you are actually using the best of the breed of technologies or processes. Buying a tool today and running it for several years to think that it is going to address everything, I don't think that's possible. Making a procedure for as simple as any specific procedure, let's say how the employee and onboarding is done, it is going to eventually change. It could change within 6 months. It could change within 3 years for an organization, depending upon how the organization is proceeding towards its business operations. So implementing the best of the breed technologies and process is also a continuous activity, and not just like a one-stop and then forget it about it. But that further results into something else. And this is where you are actually hitting. Overall, you are increasing the confidence of your customers and your stakeholders. So this is the key. Now, if you like a track back, if an organization is hit with some, let's say, regularly hit with an ransomware, unfortunate, but then let's say, how would you see that organization? Hey, I mean, you're regularly hit. Are you doing something around it? And that's the first natural instinct which would come, that something is wrong with this organization. Every second day they are hit. So that confidence building is that no, it's not just we are not hit. We got enough of the SOPs created. Our employees and all the stakeholders are involved in whatever decisions we are going to create as a framework, increases the confidences. And of course, you get a competitive edge. So while you are dealing with, let's say, acquiring new customers, or let's say doing joint ventures with some partners, you have a competitive edge because you are at a better cyber hygiene, and you got a better understanding of your overall organization from a cyber health perspective. And not only that, we just spoke that you do cyber health check even for the third party. So that's going to give you a competitive edge when you are starting to expand your business or getting into new areas. So that's the ultimate benefit of implementing the ESG framework. I picked up an article, a recent article from Microsoft, and this is a very nice infographics. If you see from the bottom part of it, these guys are saying that the compliance and reporting, accountability, things like that. So bottommost part of it, but then what does that result into? It is a better security posture management, like continuous improvement program, discovery. Then it goes up on the pyramid is some kind of architecture. Very, very nicely they put the hybrid estate of multi-cloud plus on-prem. And yes, that's what many of the organizations are actually on the crux of it, that either they are already migrating to the cloud, or they got some instances on cloud and some on this, so hybrid combo. And all of this would result into achieving the business goals and also addressing all the kinds of risks associated to it. So this is the top of the pyramid where you start dealing with other corporates, other companies, and do finance transactions and things like that. So this is kind of a nice article. I will put the link out there and maybe share the presentation later, but you could visit this article. Let's look at the India perspective. And within my presentation, I've tried to not just look at a global framework, but also what's really applicable to something as home to as India. And where is India currently? And yeah, while making this slide, I had to crunch in a couple of words over here. The best of the best points, I had to pick it up. And one of the latest news is, yes, we have started accepting full payment in INR, Indian rupees, from some 18 odd countries, and no more getting into the USD or Euro. But this is a significant achievement from India's side, a big success. The UPI framework, I've personally spoken, my colleagues have spoken in some last 6-8 months of various events. The UPI has been the biggest thing what has happened in the recent times, and a lot of countries are looking into this infrastructure, the framework, how the UPI operates, and more countries are willing to adopt that. I think around 20 odd countries have already signed an MOU. Some of the countries have already started using this framework, and this is where India is growing. iPhone, few days back, the iPhone first store was opened in our Mumbai BKC, and this becomes more relevant as an, placeholder over here. 5 billion worth of exports for iPhone, and it's expected only to grow. That around 25% of the iPhones would be going from India, make in India iPhones. That is a big thing. Apart from that, the other smartphones are already crossed 10 billion export marks. And this is the way the India is growing. Some of us who are working on the GEM part of it, the government e-marketplace for procurements, a lot of tenders, that has already crossed 2 lakh crore. I roughly calculated it. If I'm wrong completely on this maths, converting to 30 billion, please pardon me. I did did a small maths. I could be wrong, but that's a huge figure, 2 lakh crore. Why I'm trying to put this perspective? This is India's at a very, very high-paced growth path, and we are going to only see a better growth available. We already surpassed the UK economy few months back. So we are right now at the 5th largest economy, and I would say kudos to all the Indians out there. We've come a long way since 47 to over here, and this is an interesting part. One article says, the World Economic Forum says that India is poised to become by 37, we would see like 3rd largest economy, and like like, sorry to use a Hindi word, sabke muh mein ghee shakkar, as they say. Yeah, let's hope for the best. So this is what the India is poised to have a large amount of growth inside it. And yeah, kudos to see. But what happens is, with great power comes great responsibility. Uh, Spider-Man dialogue I remembered while making this presentation, and I think I already conveyed the message, but just for the bullet point of it, when you expand and go so much rapid, you're going to only see more and more risk associated, and not just other risk, but here we're trying to focus on the cyber risk part of it. A lot of MNCs are trying to come in India, start their business operations of maybe setting up factories and start dealing it. So it's important that you got a very strong underlying framework, which gives confidence to customers. They protect their assets and make this growth journey in a more sustainable manner. So this is where India should look at adopting some kind of frameworks. Currently, I've seen that a lot of organizations tend to follow the guidelines or the regulations as given by the UK or the US counterpart, like comply to these frameworks and we are good to go. But it's important for India also to make some kind of frameworks more local, more adoptable, applicable to our land. Yes, we've seen the benefits, but there are some kind of pitfalls in terms of implementing this as well. And the first is the stakeholder commitment. Often we have seen that either there's the lack of awareness at the top of the let's say pyramid. They are not really cyber savvy people, or they maybe really don't understand what kind of attacks would happen. Like, I mean, we got everything out there, but within that boardroom, all should be getting more and more sensitized about this cyber warfare, what is actually happening, ransomwares and people trying to actually do targeted attacks. It could happen to any organization for any of the reason. It's just cyber espionage, as one of the terms says. So there is definitely a lack of commitment, and the reason could be like awareness or something like that. The second big challenge is you evaluate certain threats as part of your risk management strategy, but then some people stop at it. But the threats are evolving. There are various kinds of threats going to happen, and so every few months you need to again have the steering committee rework at the new threats which are coming up, and then create policies, procedures, tweak them. So evaluation of the new threats, that's an area which is required to be done. And naturally the continuous investments. So this is an area where, like, let's say you bought some tools, but and fix it those tools, it's not going to happen. If newer threats are coming, then newer technologies has to be put. So the commitment from the stakeholders to keep on like doing the rightful investments and not look at like an one-time kind of commitment, look at a continuous activity. And that's very important. These are some of the hurdles actually which do not let the ESG get established in an organization. What's about the India perspective? How overall the India is faring? In general, there is a lack of awareness and sensitivity in a lot of people. When I say people, it's not just organization overall, and that has to be addressed in a manner. The poised growth, what we are seeing. Our regulatory environment seems a lot of times tricky. What kind of rules and maybe the state level vis-a-vis the center level, if the company is operating at multi-locations, how do we need to comply, becomes a little bit tricky, at least for the outsiders of it. And that could be a little bit of a hurdle, a challenge in implementing a framework. And naturally, the pace at what we are growing, there's a lot of catch up to be done. And without this, there won't be a sustainable model happening. Talking about the skill sets, that's a cause of concern. One of the very recent articles says that a lot of firms do have an open cybersecurity position, and I would not say even like us and a lot of you also would relate within this forum that yes, we do have a lot of unfilled positions in our organizations. Under staff, we have a lot of talent, let's say deficit of talent. various reasons towards it. Maybe the growth what we are looking at, and maybe the pace at what these people are getting trained. That's an area. The talent management has to be done. Large shortage has been there. So how do you start implementing this particular framework? The first and foremost is, I won't try to get into the technicalities aspect, because technicality is only one aspect, I would again say, but look at a comprehensive approach. Look at from the top-down approach of your organization and see what technologies would be really helpful to achieve a particular goal. What processes, SOPs need to be modified, and what trainings. In the recent sometimes I did see some organizations taking this step in terms of training their people around. It's not just like, let's say the IT team is supposed to drive this security and look at the phishing mail or some kind of a malicious mail or URL. No, it goes beyond the IT team as traditionally perceived IT, but this is completely talking the other people. It could be as good as one of the gatekeepers, or maybe the stakeholders, or a person in marketing team or an accounts team. Everywhere you need to have a comprehensive approach. Accountability. So when the mayhem happens, unfortunately, so how do you do an accountability? So accountability in terms of how do you let's say react towards it if, let's say, an incident happens. So an accountability framework has to be inserted. The third area is review and monitoring. So let there be steering committees. We've seen some ISG committees already formed. They would constantly review and monitor the statuses, the red flags available, some kind of an orange flags available, that this could be a potential threat down the line, or this is kind of a violation. Does this violation really matter? Let's say a tailgating violation. Does it really matter? But I would say a tailgating violation in turn would create a culture out of it down the line, and you would your access control logs of your doors have no meaning. So somebody has to review this from a personnel level, that tailgating, no, I think we should encourage the users to behave in a particular framework. So it's about continuously monitoring those activities. What's in it for the India store? Let me tell you, it's not all bleak in India. And then we have already done some nice steps towards it. A lot of organizations already have a well-laid security strategy, and they've implemented it well. That's what one of the surveys says, that yes, we have this framework in place. A lot of companies do have an IT dedicated team available to, rather than a shared model, but a dedicated team available to look at the day-to-day operations of their systems, hygienes, procedures, protocols, everything is available. So there's a good start. Of course, as per this survey, there's a lot of things to catch up, but still there is always a silver lining, and employee training is on the rise. You would see when I related it to one of the I think the last month or something, we participated in one of the RFPs about the employee training in terms of phishing awareness program, where there would be kind of a simulation tool which would send up crafted emails to employees without them even knowing that, hey, this is the invoice and please open this invoice and do this. Of course, it was a crafted, not a real malware, but we are trying to gauge the employee sensitiveness, their how cautious are they while opening some mails. So we've seen some projects coming up like that to train these people to better handle their systems well. And the second area is, a lot of companies are actually coming forward and accepting it in a positive way, that we alone cannot do it, and let's partner. So they go with an hiring of consultants, or they go with hiring with specific service providers who got detailed domain expertise on cyber hygiene, cybersecurity procedures, and they both collaborated. I would not call it an outsourcing over here. It's a collaborating over here, where both of these parties come forward and work towards strengthening of that information security layout. So this is what we have seen in a rise in India, and that's a good sign. The role of technology. it's very important that we got the right technology, and we have all these years put tools around which would identify a threat or mitigate a threat and do forensics around it. So those tools are available. What has happened is primarily the way the threat vectors have differed. They have changed their modalities. We need to do a little bit amount of catch up. But nevertheless, there is a technique available over here, kind of an framework which a lot of products as a lot of organizations are trying to adopt, which is the AI and the ML. The objective of using this is using a behavioral pattern in a computed, large computed manner. We are trying to increase the effectiveness of our security programs. Let me take an example of a traditional anti-malware vis-a-vis an EDR. The EDR was going to collect a lot of process data, which an anti-malware agent would not do. So process data, while an unknown file was opened, what kind of processes, what kind of registry changes, and all of this is getting stored in a central manner to later investigated, later say analyzed and find, let's say, patterns out of it. Now, this is not possible on a plain Jane computer model. So a lot of high computing systems would be involved, and this kind of an AI or ML model will increase the effectiveness of your security control. So that's the reason the EDR was formed, to get this thing done. And the idea is to reduce the dwell time, is the time from an attack happening to the time you are taking an action to mitigate or douse the fire. So this is where this AI and the ML engine is going to help us. The other area is cloud. It gives you immense amount of scalability. So if you have a large data lake and then you need to analyze that data for some kind of threat hunting, let's say, or log event storage for a very long period of time, you can archive it locally. But some of the organizations have taken the leap of getting everything put on the cloud, which is ever flexible, hyper scalable, and it gives you a benefit to just scale your organization to the next level. So we can definitely take leverage of these kind of technology advancements which are available. Still, always come back, it's not really enough, and technology is not really enough. There are so many tools. You buy one tool, tomorrow there will be a new tool. It's like I just bought a phone over here, and tomorrow I would see a new model coming in. I need to see what is more appropriate for my usage. Is the camera okay for me? Is this so? New models will keep coming. But yes, if I really require, now what is if I really require is that kind of an monitoring or that steering committee. What is my real requirement? Do I really require to have these kind of functionalities? Then you do it. Same way with the cyber tools. You just need to reevaluate your tools which are purchased, and eventually maybe get those investments done to look at a futuristic 3 to 5 year roadmap for a tool. I would say hardly 3 years as of today. I would say gone are the days you buy a particular product and look at for the next 5 to 7 years. And that's not going to serve, even with the best of the development. That would still be a gap. However, said and done, tool is just a tool, and there is much more beyond the tool, which this framework, what we have at the ESG, what we just spoke about. And maybe now you should be able to get a kind of a high level glimpse of what we are talking. An area what maybe I picked up an article from one of the nice articles over here, which talks about the maturity assessment of an organization. As an initial level, one level is, you would say, there are multiple attacks happening, but the controls are not there. So that would be kind of very abysmal that there's nothing. So I don't think most of the organizations would dare at stage 1 or stage 2. But look at the most optimized manner, and that essentially is trying to say that you have effective controls at a continuous monitoring program, not just putting control, but a continuous monitoring program. So continuity, reevaluation is the key over here in all of these 3 aspects. Culture support, continuous improvement, processes which are comprehensive and reevaluated, controls which are comprehensive and again reevaluated for the change. So this is kind of a maturity model, which maybe you can take, maybe to take a dipstick for your organization and see where you are currently, and just kind of in framework. So as we see, it's just not the tool, but essentially I'm trying to say the PPT model over here, and this is where I started the presentation from the people, process, and technology part of it. So don't let it limit to the technology. Include all your SOPs and also the awareness programs for your people, because that's one of the weakest link. People, let's say, click on some random sites, which is quite often happening. So how do you inculcate a better cyber hygiene behavior to them? And maybe we should, even at a high level, I think we should even start these kind of lessons even at our education system. Why just having simple basic hygiene, but a cyber hygiene as well, maybe a long thought of it. But that's what the inclusiveness or the 360-degree approach I was talking of, laying a cyber hygiene program. An extension to it. When I was making this PPT, and I noticed that yes, the extension does change. The PPTX becomes, and nevertheless, I need to be adaptable to the next gen of it, and not just stay to the outdated world of it, and make it a more inclusive program. That's all from my side to give you a small glimpse of this framework. And thank you so much for patiently listening me out. And if there are any questions, we can pick it up and take it further. Thank you all.
Thank you, Pranav. I think this is the second time I'm hearing you in the PPT, which you've given, like, last time as well. So you always give it a comprehensive and a detailed view, that the presentation in itself seems full gyan of the things which need, right? I think you have covered. And last slide, PPT versus PPTX, I never thought that. So from today onwards, if anyone call me for PPT, the first thought will come in mind, okay, people process technology. Okay, great, great thought over that.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I think great presentation. If possible, share presentation. Okay, I will ask Pranav if that's possible. So
sure, I'll send it across.
Yeah. And meanwhile, I think we also have Calvin. He's a business at data center, infrastructure with the iValue. So before for everyone, you can actually put your questions for Pranav and Calvin. Thanks for joining in today. And when I was going through the presentation of Pranav, so he mentioned or emphasized a few things. I may be looking forward to have some details on that from you. So one of them is like employees part of it. So he mentioned in security, the role of employees is quite significant. So what's your thoughts on that, and how you think employee play in maintaining the security of the organization, and how do you engage and educate them? I think that's the most significant problem everyone is facing. Yeah,
absolutely. So can you hear me, Gaurav, first?
Yes, I can.
See, if you actually see the success of any enterprise security program, okay, is, I would say, 60 to 70% is awareness. Okay, now employees definitely have to be made aware of the various security risks involved in they accessing any kind of a data or an infrastructure in the organization. Now, I would just give an anecdote over here. Now, just about a couple of days back, my wife received 1,500 rupees on her UPI. Okay. And the guy was chatting on the UPI saying that by mistake he had sent that 1,500 rupees on the UPI chat, and saying that he was asking her to transfer back. Now she gave me a call and said that, okay, by mistake I've received this. Should I transfer it back using the UPI? I said, no, don't do it. Ask him for the account number and the IFSC code. Please do a wire transfer using the account. So some of these, small awareness things are very, very important in an organization, because if you see 91% of the attacks today are because of phishing emails. Okay. And 82% of the breaches today are having a human element to it. So hence, creating awareness from the top-down approach of the organization is very important, because in an enterprise security governance, okay, you basically set up a council. The approach to the entire enterprise security governance is again a top-down approach. You involve all the stakeholders of the organization. You ensure that everyone is part of the program. Only then the effectiveness is achieved.
Okay, I think great example you started with, and I think the same has happened with some of the other people as well. So what I suggest, don't even ask for wire transfer. We know those are the fraudsters. Tell them that, okay, meet me in the nearest police station, we will settle over there. and then you go and enjoy that dinner with 1,500 rupees. Okay, so maybe thank you, Kelvin. So another thing which specifically as we have mentioned about the third party risk management, right? So how you can help organization manage and mitigate those risks?
See, the third party vendors are an integral part for any enterprise, okay, because you definitely need the third party vendors in terms of your suppliers or your partners or your system integrators who become an integral part of your organization. Now, these third party vendors definitely will not have the enterprise security program in place, because they would be very small in number, or they would not be that mature enough to have an enterprise security program in their organization. Again, another anecdote, one of the ITS organization in the country today, okay, is asking third party vendors to take cyber insurance. Can you guess, Gaurav, what would be the value of the cyber insurance that they're asking to take?
No clue.
100 crores. They are asking
Okay.
the organization to take 100 crore cyber insurance, which amounts to close to about a crore plus cyber premium, the cyber insurance premium, right? Now imagine, because the ITS organization is so large enough, they can reinforce on certain third-party vendors these kind of policies. But imagine every organization start to do it, there will be definitely a dearth of suppliers in the country today. So and another anecdote is, when we were talking to one of the FSI, we just asked him that your software development, how is it done? Is it done in-house? He said, no, it is outsourced. And then when we were having a conversation in terms of what kind of the code, how the code is being taken, how the repository is maintained and all, he said that no, the code from the third party vendor comes over an email. Now that is something which needs to change, because you need to reinforce again governance at the third party vendors, that they should start using secure code analysis, or they should use some kind of repositories. So tomorrow you can track the entire code analysis, and you can actually track the repository also, that for which particular application patch that you have applied the code for. So some of the things that you as an organization you will follow internally when it comes to security and governance, some of these policies can be reinforced on the third party vendors. So this is how you can actually start mitigating the risk which basically comes through the third party vendors.
Thanks, Kelvin. And I think on your insurance part, Abhay has mentioned a question. He was asking, are Indian companies buying cyber insurance or only MNCs?
No, the Indian companies are also buying cyber insurance, because if you see, Gaurav, currently there is a law which is also coming, that every incident that is occurred in the organization should be reported within 6 hours, right? Now, cyber insurance companies, when they come and they do an assessment, it is just that you take a term insurance or a health insurance, you need to declare you're a smoker and all of that. So exactly the same way, the organizations also declare and tell what is their security posture and all, and based on which the cyber premium is applied. So it is always good to declare all your health hazards in the questionnaire, so that your premium is, of course, even your premium goes up also, your insurance is covered. So yes, today Indian organizations are definitely looking at cyber insurance.
Amazing. And also one thing, Kelvin, when we actually look into enterprise security governance, most of the people start with the small, and then the organization start growing, evolve, and how we will make sure that the governance model which we have put, or the framework which we have put, so that remains adaptable and scalable as and when the organization grow. So what's
again, interesting question. Again, I will give an anecdote over here. See, it is like right from childhood, how you build your immunity or your health, right? It is, there are various things that you actually take care of your body. One is your daily health routine. The other is good health, good healthy diet, your good food. And at times you need to fall sick for you to develop immunity, right? So exactly the same way, an organization, the security posture of a particular organization is not built overnight. Okay, it is just not that, okay, today I have to adopt some of the technologies, I have built it. But then the process, the people, like how Pranav said, there is always PPT, process, people, and technology. It is just not the technology adoption. You need to put a process around it. You need to ensure that how the process is being adapted by the people. the security posture, the maturity of a security posture is always matured over the period of time. It is exactly how your immunity is matured over the period of time. Exactly the same way, the security of a particular organization, the IT security of a particular organization is matured over the period of time, because you would also analyze the behavior of your employees. You will analyze the process of your organization. You will analyze the business model of your organization. And that is how you actually kind of build the security posture.
Okay. Fair enough, Kelvin. And I have one last question for you. Okay. Meanwhile, as we are on time right now, we have feedback forms to give. We have giveaways. We have to give 1+ phone and keep counting the people for bike as well. So meanwhile, I will ask my team to start Kahoot process as well, so that people can log in. And Kelvin, I will like to know from you that what as you and your organization iValue's approach to develop an enterprise security governance framework for your customers, how you start and how you actually help your customers.
Correct. So again, one of the key elements for any ESG are basically the technologies which are deployed, the policies and process which is adopted, and the SLA which is defined. Okay. So one of the most key aspects at iValue, we have a very good basket of and the best of the breed technologies for any customer to adopt. We have been we are one of the prime organizations who actually get one of the best of the breed technologies to the country today when it comes to security. We are known one of the best security we had in the country today. Okay, so today a customer can actually look at our portfolio and our bouquet of offerings and adopt the best of the technologies from our side. So that is one key aspect. Now, the second is, when we actually have been catering to the organization for the last 14 years since our inception, okay, we have basically analyzed how every customer, okay, adopts the technology or builds a particular process or a policy in order to meet the regulatory. Okay, because most of the organizations that we cater to are large enterprise and definitely fall into the regulatory bodies that they need to comply with. So we understand that particular pattern. We have a very strong services and a technical team who have actually identified the technologies how are being adopted in various customer segments. So that is a framework that that is actually readily available with us as an organization. So we can, it's like a plug and play kind of a framework with best of the breed technologies and the policies that can be adopted by the customer. The third most important aspect is we are backed by almost close to 180 plus tech team that is available in our organization that can actually back the SLA of a particular customer. Because one of the most important, I told you, one of the most important aspect in any ESG is the SLA that you define, right? How is that you are going to maintain the SLA of the organization, your critical infrastructure, so that anytime you are breached, you come back faster and you are able to recoup faster. Okay, the response time has to be faster. So how is that you define an SLA? So this particular tech team of us basically who are geared up on all the technologies. We also give managed services. We also help customers with both implementation and professional services. So we have a very strong tech team that can actually back the entire ESG program. So that is our approach in giving ESG to customers today.
Awesome, Kelvin. I think a great approach, and I think customers are definitely taking benefit of it. So Kelvin and Pranav, thank you for joining in. Thanks iValue team, Nagesh and everyone. This was a wonderful session, and everyone, I think we loved it. Thank you.